Is there a straightforward, simple case for biblical Binitarianism? Yes, there definitely is. We're going to give you 7 simple arguments. Let's do it. My name is Mario, and welcome to the Biblical Binitarian channel. In today's video, I'm going to provide you with 7 simple arguments for the case for biblical Binitarianism. But first, a disclaimer. Biblical Binitarianism is unorthodox. That is, it is outside of the mainstream beliefs of the majority of the church. Binitarianism is also non-creedal in that no church leaders in church history have ever proposed Binitarianism in an official church creed. As a result, you should exercise a heightened sense of discernment when engaging the content on this channel, discussing these things with your pastors and leaders, and searching the scriptures for yourself to determine if these things are true. We believe that they are. So now, 7 simple arguments for biblical Binitarianism. Number 1, biblical Binitarianism is naturally expressible in the Bible's own terminology. Very often, when you ask us what we believe, we'll include some citation from the Bible. That's because we put a priority on actually understanding and using the terminology of the Bible. For example, if you ask me what is Binitarianism, I'll quote the Lord's words in John chapter 14, verse 1. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. When we read a passage like that, or we cite a passage like that in defense of our beliefs, what we're essentially showing is we believe that not only are we able to understand thoughtfully what the Bible's theology is, we're able to express it, reflecting it in the actual terminology of the Bible. We believe that if you claim to have the Bible's terminology, but you're unable to demonstrate that it reflects the Bible's theology, that's deceptive. But we also believe that if you claim to have the Bible's theology and unable to express it in the Bible's terminology, that's speculative. Number 2, biblical Binitarianism is necessitated by specific passages of Scripture. There are many passages that clearly teach the core claims of Binitarianism. However, there are also some which conclusively require a Binitarian interpretation. For example, the Lord said to his disciples in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 22, all things have been handed over to me by the Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows who the Father is except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. That text not only clearly teaches that the Father has handed all things over to the Son, it also conclusively requires that there are only 2 who exclusively and immediately know each other, the Father and the Son, and there's no one else unless they choose to reveal themselves to him. Number 3. Binitarianism is not negated by any specific passages of the Bible. I'll use here what I refer to as the 66-book challenge. That means if you begin in Genesis and go all the way through to Revelation, we're claiming that there are no specific passages which clearly, conclusively negate Binitarian claims. The reason why that's impressive is not all views can do that. For example, the passage I just quoted from Luke chapter 10, verse 22, actually directly negates 2 claims of Trinitarianism. Trinitarians believe that the Spirit is a third person who both knows exclusively and immediately the Father and the Son, and is known exclusively by the Father and the Son. This passage teaches that that's not the case. Only the Father and the Son exclusively know each other, and there's not a third person who's mentioned in that passage. So that text, along with others, actually negates their views. Binitarianism does not have this. Number 4, Biblical Binitarianism does not create any needless anomalies with other clear teachings of the Bible. An anomaly is any inconsistency that is created when your observations are out of step with your expectations. Meaning, based on your beliefs, there are certain things that you expect to see in the Bible, and then you go and you observe it, and you either do or you do not see it. For example, as Binitarians, we believe that both the Father and the Son are fully divine. Therefore, it's our expectation that there'll be passages where both the Father and the Son individually and together collectively are worshiped. And when we look to the scriptures, our observations are confirmed. We find passages such as Philippians chapter 2, verses 9 to 11, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 6, or Revelation chapter 5 in its entirety, where both the Father and the Son are worshiped. So there we see that there are no anomalies. Not all views can say that. For example, Trinitarians who believe that there's a third distinct divine person, they can't go and show you that that third person is worshiped either individually, like the Father and the Son, or collectively with the Father and the Son in specific passages. What's more, when it comes to the topic of God being love, our expectation if God is love, then the Spirit will love the Father and the Son and will be loved by the Father and the Son. However, you have an anomaly in the sense that even though we have clear passages that teach that the Father and the Son love each other, we don't have any passages that teach that the Spirit loves the Father or the Son, or that the Father or the Son loves the Spirit. So what you end up there is a disconnect between your expectations and your observations, meaning it's an anomaly. Now, one instance like this would just be something you would have to address. But when there's 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 anomalies, then it usually means that there's something wrong with your expectations and the underlying assumptions that you have. Number 5, the normative concepts of the Spirit of God are consistent with Binitarianism. Binitarians believe that the words Spirit of God or Spirit of the Lord do not require there be another person whom God is relating to in order for that expression to be true. We simply believe that God is Spirit. He consists of Spirit. And therefore, when we read Spirit of God, we're referring to God's very own Spirit. Same Spirit of the Lord. It's the Lord's very own Spirit. When we survey the Bible, beginning in the Old Testament into the New Testament, we see certain normative concepts. That's repeated, routine expressions or ways of speaking that give us a pattern that help us to understand what the Bible means in those passages. We've identified about 15. 5 that have to do with God in and of himself, 5 that have to do with God and his creation, and then 5 that God and his chosen people. When we look at those 15 normative concepts, understanding that God is Spirit, we're able to then explain any passage in light of those normative concepts without appealing to any nuance or novel concept in order to explain it. Number 6, notable Trinitarian theologians actually agree with a number of the clear claims of Binitarianism. This one's interesting. There actually are theologians who are Trinitarians who would actually affirm some of our observations that we have as Binitarians. For example, one theologian, Cornelius Plantinga Jr., he said in his article on the Trinity in the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, in sum, the New Testament does testify to the Spirit's distinct personhood and divinity, but mutedly and ambiguously. The Spirit in the New Testament is personally less distinct than the Father and Son, and his divinity less clearly stated. He appears as a nearly transparent agent for the Father and Christ. One properly concludes that the New Testament is overall clearly Binitarian in its data and probably Trinitarian. Here's another quote from the late Larry Hurtado in his article on the origins of the worship of Christ. He says, within the firm monotheism of these early Christians, there was a definite duality of God the Father, and Christ. There was a Binitarian shape to their monotheistic faith and devotion. Now, I'll quickly add that these are Trinitarian theologians who believe in the Orthodox doctrine of the Trinity. But that's what makes these quotes even more interesting. I refer to this seventh argument as the nuclear argument. Number 7. Ultimately, the nuances of Binitarianism are also believed by Trinitarians. Now, this one requires you to think a little bit. First, Binitarians believe in the Father and the Son, that they're both fully divine. Trinitarians do also, so check. Binitarians believe that from the beginning, even from the Old Testament, God the Father is essentially spirit. Trinitarians do also, check. Binitarians and Trinitarians believe that the Son, who was with the Father, was made manifest in the form of a man and still remained being essentially spirit while taking the form of a man. Check. Binitarians and Trinitarians both believe that the Father and the Son share one and the same essential spirit. Check. Binitarians and Trinitarians believe that in addition to sharing this one and the same essential spirit, that in the New Testament, the focus of faith, love, and worship is directed primarily on the Father and the Son. Check. Well, those points are essentially Binitarianism. Trinitarians must then add that there's a third distinct divine person who's a part of this triune God who you're not able to go back and make the preceding 6 arguments about that we did for Binitarianism. That to us is a compelling case. In the comments below, let us know which of these 7 arguments you liked and which of these 7 you liked the least. And if you enjoy the substantive content on this channel, we ask you, in addition to liking, sharing, subscribing, to remember us in your prayers. And grace and peace ×2. Thanks for watching.